Nowadays, process automation and other internal changes in companies are necessary due to the fierce competition in the market. And without a doubt, it's essential to have an adequate preparation analysis to better face these changes. But what is this analysis about and why it is so important? Let's begin by defining the concept. It refers to the process of evaluating and assimilating the specific needs and requirements of a customer before pre-executing, implementing, and carrying out the development of a system, program, or platform in a company. Among several other stages, this process includes the application of exhaustive testing, data collection, and detailed analysis of several aspects that are essential to ensure the success of the system implementation. But without a doubt, the most important part of this process is to identify the specific needs of the customer. And what is the most effective way to do it? Well, some customers already know their industry inside out, but they have just decided to take the first step in terms of system implementation and IT. These new customers not only expect us to understand their needs and their business, but also to provide them with a detailed project report and a functional solution including mock-ups and the respective descriptions of the system's operation and functionality. In other words, they not only expect to get an IT system, but also require a complete consulting service. There is another type of customer that generally includes large corporations. In this case, we meet with the IT department people who have already prepared a project and assigned specific tasks, so this analysis is not so important. Of course, this doesn't mean it's not required at all, but that they're looking for other more specific support or consulting. In any case, and taking both types of customers into account, an adequate basic analysis must include a good knowledge of the client and a clear understanding of their needs to develop the best and most adequate solution for them. But how can we identify these needs more simply? The first thing to do is know the customer's industry and the role they play in it, as well as the terminology they use daily. In this way, we'll be able to translate all the information they provide into a more understandable language for programmers. And yes, indeed, creating that bridge between the client and the programming team is perhaps the biggest, or at least one of the biggest challenges throughout the analysis. For that reason, creating a glossary that includes an explanation of the most common terms is essential. Otherwise, it's easy to get confused about which features should be included in the system and which shouldn't. Of course, it often helps to have worked with similar projects in the past, because simply hearing the same type of terminology allows us to deduce the type of needs of the new customers. We could say that these glossaries make us some sort of experts in some specific industries. Okay, we have already talked about the initial analysis and the main elements to be considered. But what other aspects should be taken into account during the process? Once the initial evaluation has been completed, it's time for the actual analysis. This means, for example, holding workshops with the customers or organizing meetings with IT departments and suppliers. Here's where the most difficult and demanding work begins. The first thing to do is define the types of user the system is intended for. In some cases, such as e-commerce platforms, it's not always easy to define the type of customers, so the analysis is usually focused not only on technical aspects but also on market research, competition, customer search, behavior, or A/B testing. We often test a couple of possible solutions with a selected group of users to see which one works better. In the particular case of e-commerce platforms, it's essential to identify the actors and define the role they play in the system. This will allow us to better understand and describe the access paths, as well as people who will use the platform. Another important aspect to take into account is the definition of the process to be carried out in the system, as well as the roles to be played by individual users. This is because different users are often assigned to each level of the process. The next stage in this analysis is the compilation of all customer requirements, which can be divided into two: functional and non-functional. Functional requirements refer to those elements necessary for the system to meet the specific goals of the project. While working with the customer, we often base our work on terms such as MVP. In doing so, we help the customer shorten their product's time to market, reduce costs, perform A/B testing, and once the system is ready, they can also correct, improve, and develop it. Non-functional requirements are not necessarily related to the operation of the system itself, but are key to making it usable. We could take the POS system used in cash registers as an example. Once all the technical requirements have been met, an important aspect is also the customization of the interface, which must be user-friendly so that the person working with the system can deliver services to the customer easily. You're probably wondering how long it takes and how expensive it is to develop such a system. Well, when it comes to time, we always try to tailor to the particular needs of each customer, so we offer each of them several possible solutions. To determine the suggested options, we simply meet with them on a few occasions to discuss and describe in detail the key points. In terms of money, the more developed and large the system, the higher the requirements, and therefore the higher the cost. During the budgeting stage, we ask the customer some basic but very precise and specific questions to shorten the analysis time and reduce costs. However, of course, particular cases require more exhaustive market studies and much more specialized services and therefore more work. This translates into higher expenses. We have already mentioned at least two types of customers: those who are completely new in the IT field and those who are already some way along in their project. But are there any customers who know exactly what they need and they think they can avoid the expenses from this analysis? Absolutely. However, as a rule, we always explain to the customer all the advantages of applying it. Of course, this doesn't guarantee that we'll be able to convince them. If that's the case, what we suggest is to work based on Agile or Scrum methodologies. This solution has some advantages, such as partial commissioning of system elements. The client has the opportunity to test and decide, so he has a great influence on how the project will be executed. But at the same time, he must be aware that it's not possible to precisely determine when the project will be completed and how much it will spend on it. But this is not the only possible solution. We also have a mixed method based on sprints or periodic meetings with the customer, combined with the benefits of Scrum. And by the way, this is the most frequently selected solution because it offers the customer greatest certainty of the time and budget it will take to implement the project. In conclusion, no matter what the customer situation is, we definitely recommend this analysis because it will allow him to evaluate possible risks and define the best method to implement the project. Speaking of us, from the very first consultation, we can already offer a customer the best possible solution of his specific needs in terms of cooperation, time, and budget. So, now that you know all the benefits of the analysis, are you ready to add it to your project? In case of any doubts, feel free to contact me and visit my LinkedIn profile. And last but not least, don't forget to share your comments, subscribe to our channel, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content.